I have 10 stocking filler ideas for whether it would be somebody you know who sews or whether it's for yourself and you want to drop a few hints for someone to buy. Feel free to share this video, to send them, email them the link for this video for them to watch. Or whether, like myself, you're from a family where everyone just buys the children in the family. You don't really have many people who would buy you a present. So why not buy it for yourself? Now, I have written these down in my notebook, so I will be referring to them, but without further ado, number one I've written down, and that is a fancy tape measure. These are really nice ones on Liberty's website, and they're nice floral ones, and they seem extra special, just extra fancy. Now, there are plenty of other sites. If you go onto Etsy and you put into dressmaking tape measures, there are all sorts of different shapes and sizes, and just I think something extra special. Like I say, these are stocking filler ideas, so they are on a budget. I do have another video which will have all the gift ideas for like main presents, so a little bit more expensive. Now, second on the list is a French curve set. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is my French curve, and it is a curved ruler which you can then use. So when you're tracing and cutting out on a sewing pattern, you can get those curves when you need to trace for like an armhole or a neckline, especially if you're grading out and that kind of thing, where it's not just a straight line. This is really useful. Mine, it's not very big, so I ideally would like a longer one, so I've got a more gradient, like gentle curve on it. So I think I might be just dropping a few hints to my husband to do it. If not, I will just treat myself and buy a set. But they're not terribly expensive, but they are a really useful tool, especially if you're tracing sewing patterns and that kind of thing. Gift idea number three is a thread cutter. Now, I've seen these online on lots of sites actually, so you can get some where they hang around your neck, and it's a little tool that you can just use, and it just snips off the threads. So it's just a little ideal that you can just pop in someone's stocking filler or add to a main present. Doesn't cost a lot, but it's a really handy tool to have. Stocking filler idea number four is a thread colour chart. Now, I've got the Gutermann one, and this one, they no longer do real threads on it, but this is a printed chart, and so it gives you all the different shades. So particularly if you're running, you're having a project but you just don't have time to physically go into a shop, or maybe you don't have a shop near you and you haven't ordered thread at the same time as ordering your fabric and you want to match it up. Now, you can get colour charts for different brands other than the Gutermann. This is just the one I have because that's the brand that I particularly use, but it costs less. I think it's about £3 or something. It's really cheap, but it's really handy to have. So because it has the colour, it works really well. I have actually ordered from using this online. So put your fabric next to the colour thread that you might think it is. It has the code for the thread, which then means you can then order some online, whether it be eBay or something like that, or even with a local, with a fabric shop online, and you want to order some threads, you'll know the exact code that you need to go by. So I would say that's something really handy just to pop in with alongside a present or a gift idea. Next up is the Prym Turning tool. Now, I don't know if there are other brands, but this is the one that I have, and it's really useful. So when you have loops that you need to turn, like long straps or something, you can use the safety pin method. You can do the thing where you then sew in a thread and pull it and that kind of thing, but I have used this and it's really handy and it's really quick to use. So the Prym one has you've got your tube, and then you've got like a cocktail stick, and with the set you've got two different sizes. So there we go, so you can see, so the two, depending on how thin or thick your strap is that you need to turn, you put your strap over one way and then you pop the stick in and then you pull it off like that, and it turns the strap the right way around, and then you have a little point because of the cocktail stick. Not quite a cocktail stick, but you have your bamboo cane you can then use to poke out the corners, and it's really quick and it's really good and really useful to have. And I didn't know this until I saw someone demonstrate online, and I thought, oh well, I'll try it, and now this is a complete game changer. There's none. I've had sewing pins where they've come undone and then we've lost a thread halfway through the strap, and it's really annoying. This is really quick, so Relatively inexpensive, but a really good tool to have. I think we're up to stocking filler number 5. I'm probably going to lose count of this now, but I put down a nice needle cushion or a magnetic pin holder. Now this can be either, I've seen on First for Fabrics, they are showing on their Instagram that they have the wristband, so it looks like one of these it looks like an Apple Watch or something, but it's that kind of idea. So you have the magnetic pad here, which then I think it's like a wrist slap band type thing, which then goes around your wrist. So when you're sewing, and if you're using pins, and particularly if you're fitting something on yourself, or like a hem or something like that, this is really handy to have. You can then put those pins will just stay there. If you didn't want to have it on your wrist, there are lots of magnetic sewing dishes out that you can get, and I would say look on Etsy, because if you want something quite nice and unique, that is the place to go, because that's where a lot of artisans will sell their products, and it's really good to support independent crafters and have something just extra special that fits in with your sewing space. Next up is chalk pens. Now you can get the tailor's chalks, which are the triangular ones, which that is what I have used in the past, and you have to sort of like snap off the chalk to get a sharp line, but it does a really thick line and they're not that accurate. But I have seen chalk pens and I've heard really good things about them. So you get the refills and they will give you a much sharper line when it comes to drawing darts and transferring markings from the pattern to the fabric. If, like me, when you're sewing you like to have a hot beverage or any kind of drink, then a coaster is a really good idea to have on your desk. Now I saw last year when I looked on Etsy, there were some button coasters, so it looked like one big button. And so I know that you can get all sorts of sewing themed coasters and mugs and that kind of thing. But I would say if you're looking for an idea for somebody to pop in like a button coaster, like I think it was wooden, like a button coaster, or some kind of sewing really nice coaster or mug, because that will get used, whether that will just be have a mug which has pens in and little sewing tools and scissors, or whether you actually use that to have a drink while you're sewing. That is something which will be really useful and something that I actually quite like. Next up is a little bit strange, and you're probably thinking, who would buy that? Well, I would say knee pads. Now, if like me, you don't have a big cutting table, you may cut out on the floor. And so I bought these. I actually got this from Lidl, but you can get them from any sort of builder's merchant, so DIY store, anything like that where tradespeople would go. These are gel knee pads, so they are padded on there, and so they just Velcro on. They cost, when I bought them, they cost me less than £10 because Lidl have one of their offers on. But I think I looked on Screwfix and I think, you know, £15. They're relatively cheap. And if you have a hard floor like laminate floor, wood floor, or tiles, like I have tiles in my sewing room here, if you're kneeling down, laying all the pieces out and cutting them, it can really, let's just face it, a lot of us are not 18 anymore. We can feel it in our knees. So I would say a set of knee pads, gel knee pads, is really good. And if you go with like the men's builders ones, they're really large, and so they do cover your knee. So unlike the sort of ones you can get with roller skating, they're really easy to put on. They just strap on and off, but they just give you an extra bit of comfort if you're crawling around with your knees with a pair of scissors or a rotary cutter, like what I do most of the time. Before I share with you the last stocking gift idea, don't forget to check out my other video, which has a bit more expensive present ideas on there, for either if you're buying for yourself obviously, or if you want someone to buy something for you and drop a few hints, that I will share that. So I will link that down below in the description box once that's all been published. So the last idea is a sewing journal or notebook, just so you can keep an eye on your makes. You can buy notebooks and sewing journals from all over the place with Etsy, not on the high street. I've also seen Merchant & Mills have a maker's notebook. Now this is what I use. This is from Paper Chase. I have a couple of these. They're hardback. Not quite, this one's not quite A4. My other one I think is A4. But with it being spiral bound, you can then write your notes down, and this is really useful for what I have. I mean, my one is just lined paper. You can obviously then tear it off. So when I've made something, I can write down the size any adjustments that I've made, even the fabric, maybe how much fabric I used, the fabric type I've used. And rather, some books you can get and journals you can get will have boxes already laid out. So they'll say, you know, fabric required, or, you know, size made, any adjustments, and they'll already have those titles on the page. You do pay a little bit extra because obviously then they are pre-printed like that. But I would say a hardback notebook, and obviously with it being spiral bound, it sits flat, so you can just have that on your desk next to where you sew, and you just jot down your notes, and when you finish, just jot down how, you know, any adjustments if you want to make it next time, if it's come up a little big or a little small or that kind of thing. You can then make those notes, so then the next time you get the pattern out, you can have a quick flick through your notebook and you've got all those references there, because sometimes it's quite easy to make the project and then move on and then think, now what size did I make? I can't quite remember. So I would say that's a really good idea. There are 10 stocking filler ideas for you, so hopefully there are some things in there which you either want to add to your own list, or to for someone to buy for you, or to buy for yourself. And I hope to see you in the next video, which has the bigger and slightly more expensive present ideas on it.